you can build a really global network of people. And this is where you also can connect people. Coming from different industry, you will never sit down with your competitor and share what keeps you awake at night. The way we treat people and the way we take care of people is what makes us different and what makes us powerful.
So, Mr. Ori, um, I would like to start this interview by asking you, what is your purpose and what are you currently doing to make that happen?
Wow, my purpose. You know, professionally, I would say professionally, I started my role as CEO about 2.5 years ago. And becoming a leader as a CEO, uh, you have different, obviously, roles and responsibilities. But I think the biggest one that you have to make sure that you make time for is thinking about the future. And when you're in part of the executive team and you are part of the management team and you have your own role, whether it's CMO, CFO, COO, whatever it is, it's very clear what you have to do. It's true that you always wear the management hat and your professional hat, but it's very clear what you need to do. When you become a CEO, you have a much bigger, I would say, objective or mission, and if to think about the future of the company, not because of your own position, but to make sure that all our employees are taken care of, that they have a future within the company. The company has the ability to grow and strive and thrive. That we all going to benefit the entire team, I would say.
What about you as a person? What's your purpose as Ori, as a person, as a human?
Uh, I mean, I'm a people person, and I like connecting people, and I do that by also contributing back to the industry, the event industry community. As you know, I joined the meeting industry in 2013, not long ago. I wasn't born in the event industry. I was working in different industry, telecom, automotive, many, mainly in marketing positions. But quite quickly, when I started being involved in the meeting industry, uh, I started being involved in industry association like IAPCO, ICA, and others. And I truly believe in giving back to the community, this community, which is a very special community, and we can speak about it more in length. But um, I thought that we will all benefit if we all support one another, even if we're competitors, if we're sitting with all our competitors around the table, becoming more professionals will help all of us
Mhm.
because we have a shared interest. And this is how I became more involved in industry associations, became board members, council member. I was the president of IAPCO, and I one of my main things that I do there is education, and I speak in a lot of industry events, seminars all over the world, and share from my knowledge and experience to everybody.
All right. At what moment did you realize that your goal was to connect people, that you wanted to actually, be a connector of people? When did that come about?
Um, I think that my first IAPCO, the International Association of Professional Congress organizer meeting, is when I realized that how different is this industry. Because again, coming from different industry, you will never sit down with your competitor and share what keeps you awake at night, right? What are the main issues that you need to tackle right now? And I went to, I think it was 2000, I would say 16 or 15, to our first IAPCO annual meeting. It was in Cape Town, which was phenomenal experience. And one of the sessions was what keeps you awake at night. And I remember they divided up to, roundtable discussions based on the size of the company. So you literally sitting with all your competitors around the table, all your biggest competitors, which I got to know, and started to share. And you know what? It worked. Not only it worked, they are now one of my best friends. So if you look at the leaders of PCOs around the world, or DMOs or CVBs, all became very good friends of mine. And then I realized that you can build a really global network of people. And this is where you also can connect people. I think this is when I realized that.
I wanted to share with you how we created the deep dive. First, we defined our audience, CEOs within the events industry, first and second degree connections from USA, Spain, and Colombia. Also, that they follow one of my favorite event marketers, Julio Solaris. We took that to our software where we created a special list, placed some tags, and connected it to my profile. Then we started scraping the entire database. We started automating outreach on LinkedIn with multi-step engagement that felt quite human. This allowed us to schedule collaboration and voila! Now we have more than 25 episodes, more than 12 hours of content, plus 150,000 impressions between all channels, and we've reached more than 45,000 people. Not to mention, I've doubled my follower count in less than 3 months. We can do the same for you. Whether you're looking for event leads, sponsors, speakers, influencers, or just save 30% of your current ads budget, we're here to help. Send me a message.
All right, cool. That must have been a very interesting meeting. That must have been a really exciting one as well. And I found that allowing yourself to kind of like show those vulnerabilities is what makes us human. At the end, there are, like interest when we're talking about professionally and company-wise, but at the end, it's a sum of all positives when we work together, everybody
Absolutely.
gets the best out of the whole process when we work together. So that must have been a really exciting meeting. Now, how is Ken as being like a vehicle for you to achieve that purpose?
Well, Kenes is my new home. It is. It's home. It's family. It is very unique in a sense that it was founded as a family business, right? And in in last January we celebrate our 60th anniversary. We did it actually in Vienna. It's the first time we brought all the employees from all over the world to one place, so it was truly unique. And throughout those 6 decades, the company has been able to maintain a family DNA and culture.
Mhm.
And again, I said too many times unique, but it is unique because I come from a corporate world, also from a startup world. It is very different. The way that our biggest asset is our people. It's true for many companies, but this is in the event industry is even more because this is what we sell. What we know, our knowledge, our expertise is what we sell. And um, the way we treat people and the way we take care of people is what makes us different and what makes us powerful. And I started my first role in Kenes was actually leading Kenes marketing. Kenes marketing is its own P&L, and we are providing marketing services to our client as a marketing agency. I did it for 4 years, which was amazing because marketing is my thing and this is what I was passionate about. But after 4 years, Dan, who was the CEO and the owner of the company, came in. I remember we were in Gothenburg together, and I remember that he said, "Listen, Ori, I want to do a structure change in our operations, and I want to merge a few departments, and I want you to lead this restructuring and lead this uh, operation and clients NIT department or unit." And I said, "Oh, okay, but I'm a marketing person. You're taking me out of my comfort zone." But I can tell you that first, you cannot say no to Dan because, and also I remember that I told him, Dan, I need to share with you something, and I'm being very honest here. Before joining Kenes, like the typical corporate world, every 3 or 4 years I was changing jobs, looking to be promoted, looking to do something else, different industries, and it's the first time I felt home. And I told them it's the first time I'm not looking for anything else. I feel that I found my place, I found my home. And then I did this role for 5 years. And of course, I always wanted to become a CEO, but this is a family business and the CEO is the owner. But I knew that one day this is what I wanted back then. And one day, sitting in Dan, he said, it's not going to be long until you're going to sit in my place. which was a positive surprise, and actually happened very quickly. So after almost 9 years in company, I became the CEO. So you understand that the Canis is a great vehicle for me personally, that I found my way. And I can tell you in brackets that when I started my professional career, um, when I was a student, right? And I was actually working in a call center, giving a technical support. And I was working at a certain stage when I got promoted, and I was a deputy manager of a huge call center of 300 people. Started working with a marketing team very closely. When I realized I want to be a marketing person, so what I did that every morning, my coffee was with the marketing team, and every day, every opportunity I had to collaborate with them, I worked with them very closely. And when there was an opening, an open position, and I applied, and to cut the long story short, and I became a marketing manager, I knew that my career path from the get-go, I'll be in marketing, I'll become, senior marketing manager, whatever. I become a CMO, a VP marketing somewhere, and then CEO. I didn't know how, I didn't know where, how exactly will happen, but this is the path that I drove to myself.
That's very interesting because one of the things that honestly right now I'm trying to develop within that same kind of like jumping from one task to another is consistency. It's trying to find first a community where I can feel like I'm part of that there's a sense of belonging. Actually, one of my first jobs within the events industry was working with Kenneth, with the office from Spain, actually with
Yeah,
Carlos. Carlos is one of my
Carlos is
mentors. I
amazing.
really appreciate him. And that what you're explaining is exactly the energy that I felt every time that I would collaborate with the team when we would go on site
Yep.
to, support an event. It was a family, and still I still talk to many of the people within the team, and that I really appreciate. But I've also jumped from one role to another, from sales to investigation to just marketing. But how do you manage, for example, to stay consistent throughout that journey and not lose yourself, within the process?
First of all, I'm not sure you have to stay consistent. I think when you'll find your place, you know that you found your place. If you have the urge to jump from one, as you said, from sales, maybe to marketing, research, and you feel that you still are curious, which is fantastic, by the way, to try more things until you find your place. And I'm all in favor. I'm always saying, first of all, I'm all in favor in continuing learning all the time. I think I've mentioned that we're in an era that, not like, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, you did your business, you did your BA, or MBA or master's, and that's it. And you stopped learning that. You had your professional role and you did it for 40 years. That's not the case anymore. We constantly need to learn and change and to adapt. I mean, I spend so many hours learning about AI, for example. Do I need it to my role? Probably yes, because I'm, leading a company. But I'm not in the level of an IT person, but I still do learn that, and I try things out, and I start programming apps. Why? Because I think we always need to learn. We always need to upskill ourselves. But going back to your question, until you find your place, and it's totally fine not to be consistent.
Interesting. Well, in a way, we can also find some level of consistency within that. Curiosity,
Curiosity.
For me, curiosity has been something that has taken me to live in Africa and Asia, move around, start a company, start another one, and just keep trying, keep trying. But at the same time, just trying to see the process from a broad perspective and not lose myself within that process. Not say I'm only this or I'm only that. No, I want to see everything under the umbrella and have a sense of everything that's going on, because that curiosity just pushes me naturally towards it. So it's very interesting. Now, what have been those like moments of, I would call it like little moments of gratitude that you have seen throughout your process that just basically tell you that exactly you're in the right path, that you're
Yeah.
doing the right thing?
I would say actually going to start with something different. Um, I will never forget my first role as a manager. I was still in this call center, and I was quickly promoted to shift supervisor. We call it sushi because it's the opposite, shift supervisor. Anyways, and we were like the top within the call center when it comes to technical support. We knew it all and so on and so forth. And we were a team of shift supervisor. And fairly quickly, I became the leader of that team, where there were people much more senior with me, with this team that was working 3, 5, 6 years, and I was a newbie, I would say. And I became the leader of that team and the deputy manager of the entire call center. And it was my first, you're speaking about gratitude. This, first of all, that the way that they um, saw the potential in me. However, it was my first role as a manager, and I did every mistake possible as a manager. Like I did everything wrong, and I learned the hard way. But for me, it was the best school ever. I was avoiding conflict. I was doing their task just to avoid, want everything to be calm, which we're not, and so on and so forth. What I'm saying is that I got the opportunities. I made a lot of mistakes, but I knew that I had the backup, right? I knew that somebody was behind me and telling me it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from that. And this is something I took with me until today. So every person that I've managed in the past until today know that I empowered them to take decisions, and they will always have my backing.
Mhm.
And if they make mistake, it's totally fine. As long as you learn from that. Like I think Nelson Mandela said, it's either you succeed or learn, right? Um, and I think this is something I took from my learning journey to what I'm doing today.
That's beautiful that you say that. It reminds me of my father, of my dad. I started my career as well working with him, and that was something that I would usually really appreciate within my father, because every time there was a manager, even if I was the son or my brother or whatever, the manager had that backing of my father. He
Yeah.
was always like, my father would say, whatever he decides, I back it up, because that's the person exactly that I'm empowering to do that, and I trust that person. And I feel that being able to entrust in your teams the responsibility and allowing them to make those mistakes is what makes true companies like grow and flourish, like yours. Now, what have been some of the challenges that you've faced throughout that journey, or more than challenges, what have been some of the failures that you've had throughout that journey that had shaped you?
So I give you one failure. Um, okay, thinking about else, I worked in just before joining Canis, I worked at a startup that has raised $900 million, and with the idea of building an infrastructure to charge electric cars. But we also developed a switchable battery car together with Renault. It was a huge project uh, that probably was just a little bit early to the market, because in 2011 I already had my 100% electric car
Wow,
with me. Yeah, that
that's a
was
long
just
time
when
ago.
Tesla just started, and we had our switchable battery car together with Renault. But at the end, we spent the entire $900 million, and things were, just went bankrupt at a certain stage.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I think I can write a book about the mistakes that we made as a company, whether it's the founder that insisted to be, he was came with a great idea. He was an amazing salesperson. He had an elevator pitch, so the first investor literally spent $100 million after an elevator pitch. And
Wow.
but he insisted to be also um, managing the entire operation, marketing, strategy, everything. He didn't let go, right? Just we spoke about the trust, right? So we could sit together, and I was a marketing and strategy director, and we can sit all, doing some marketing brainstorming or strategy in the room, and 10 people will say black, he will say white, and you cannot argue with him. It never happened. At a certain point, because everything that happened, the biggest investors came to him and said, listen, we want to hire a global CFO that will report to us because we want to know where you're spending the money. And he said, over my dead body. And they just fired him. The founder, the guy who came with the idea, went home. That's it, done. And obviously, from that point, the company started deteriorating. And they tried a few things, bringing a new leadership. They took McKinsey as a consulting firm, and he spent $400,000 just for their consultancy, which is quite funny because what
too
they
bad
did.
they didn't have ChatGPT back then.
Look, I'm a big fan of McKinsey. I love their content. By the way, great. They have great content. I'm reading all the newsletters and research, and I'm part of their survey panel and so on and so forth. But when they came, it was many years ago, and what they did, they interviewed us as managers, right? They took a summary, what are you saying? What do you think we should do? And put everything on the nice slides and charge $400,000 on that. Okay, that didn't work, obviously. But this was a great learning experience for me, right? Seeing from one angle how to take risks. It's a startup, how to manage risk, but also what to avoid. So there was a great learning experience. Great people were there, and unfortunately, maybe it's fortunate because I found myself right out 2 weeks afterwards in Kennis, and the rest is history.
Amazing. That played out well. Would you say that the biggest mistake at that point then was maybe not delegating properly? The mistake, for example, that this leader had was not delegating adequately?
It's not delegating and not giving, trust in people. If you have to be involved in every decision, it's impossible. We at a certain point, we were close to 1,000 employees, but for a startup, which makes no sense, right?
Too many, yeah.
Yeah, it's too many. So you can't be involved in everything. There's R&D, there's operations, there's marketing, there's sales. There's so many departments. This is why you have an executive team, you have a management team. You have to let them work. You have to let them go. You can't be involved in everything. This micromanagement doesn't work anymore. And so that's one thing. And the other thing, it's not only the delegation. He didn't listen to what people are saying. He was very fixated in this is the way we need to go, and that's it. And it didn't work.
How do you pass down that, that mentality of being able to delegate to your other, like the whole team at Canis? What things do you do to pass that down, that mentality?
I think you walk the talk. You set as a role model. You do it yourself, and you encourage your people to do the same. And if it's 100%, proof that everybody will do that, no. There's many types of managers, and I'm trying, at least with the people who are reporting to me, to mentor and do feedback. How can you improve the way you trust, you delegate? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to trust the people. Sometimes you get an external manager coming in a senior role, and he gets a team that he doesn't know and maybe doesn't trust on the day one, but he has to, because otherwise he won't be able to succeed. And he needs to learn and listen for a couple of months just to learn how things are working. And then you want to do a change. As I said, you always have my backing, but it's first listening, first learning, and then making decisions.
Okay. What are you most concerned about right now within the industry? What's your right now? What's keeping you up at night?
I think that every leader is concerned about the geopolitical tension. As I said, I'm a member of McKinsey panel, and once a quarter they serve all the CEO, executive owners of thousands of organizations globally. And of course, the benefit that I get the research report before everybody else. Okay, it's nice. But you can see that the number one concern for leader across the world in what can affect their organization is the geopolitical tension. And it's everywhere. It's in the Middle East, it's in South North Korea, it's in Taiwan and China, it's in, Ukraine, Russia, it's in the US, what's happening with Trump and so on. And so that's a big concern. And we can see it already affecting. And I'll give an example. We do a lot of medical association meetings, right? And it's just announced the Trump administration and DOJ, how they cut the budget of research of NIH and thousands of jobs of researchers across different organizations within the US, and the budget that were allocated for research has been completely cut from medical research, life science research. That has a direct impact on our events. We do a global events everywhere. We have a lot of Americans from the US coming and attending the meetings, presenting the research, speakers, sponsors, and this is starting to affect because of one, uncertainty. They don't know what will happen with their jobs, with their budget, or the budget was cut. So that's one example of the geopolitical tension that already impacting our sector. So that keeps me awake at night for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Sponsorships right now are being a challenge, a big challenge. One way that we're kind of like working around that is maybe seeing it more like long term, like trying to build like long-term relationships and trying to find different touch points that we can provide our sponsors, not just solely in one event, but in multiple touch points throughout the year so they can get that consistency within the target audience. So, but yeah, sponsorships definitely are a big headache right now. Funds
No,
to get the events
absolutely.
going.
We obviously shifted from a yearly or annually meeting to a year-round activation, right? We have a year-round activation, whether it's webinars, meetups, and obviously the in-person meetings. So we have full activities around the year. So the touch point, absolutely agree on. But I'll give you another, again, happening next week. We have a meeting in Vienna, the World Hospital at Home Congress. It's one of our, we call it the regional events, one of our brands.
Yeah.
And this is driven a lot from policymakers, combined with technology, combined with this research. So it's a multidisciplinary that looks at, and we did that actually, we started that before COVID. So obviously it accelerated a lot during COVID because all the concept of hospitalizing at home. But we saw a huge drop this year because the Americans are not coming, not the sponsors and not the participation, because all the policymakers are on hold. So they don't know what to do. So this is really affecting the
That's
meeting.
intense.
Yeah.
So first pandemic, now a little bit, that makes life exciting, Our job would be too easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my last guest was Eduardo Chaillo. I'm pretty sure you
Yeah,
know him
Eduardo,
pretty
of
well.
course.
An amazing guy. We had such an amazing conversation. I had heard so much about him. Had never met him in person, but it felt so warm. It felt so good. So one tradition that we have over here is that each guest has a question for the next one. So the
Oh, okay.
question that Eduardo left for you is, if you could send a message to somebody who has never understood the importance of events, what would you say?
I would say that the meeting industry is probably the biggest impact on our society that is underrated, because the impact we bring through the meeting industry, whether it's the development of technology, of science, is something that is unparalleled to anything else. There's the famous story about how the papillomavirus vaccine was developed, and that was at the conference in Sydney of HPV Congress, or it is called today IPVC, which I'm happy to say that for the last decade it's one of our clients. But back then it wasn't us, so I can't claim. But through a collaboration there at the meeting, the vaccine was invented. So just one
Wow.
example, yeah, what is the huge impact on our society. And I'm not speaking about the economy impact, which is also significant to the destination, but as a global society, it wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't have the vaccine if the meeting didn't happen back then in Sydney.
Wow, yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I'm also very passionate about the events industry in that sense that you do feel like you're making a change, especially if you're focused on the medical field. But then I was talking to Kai Hatendorf a couple of weeks ago, and what he really outlined was that after COVID, we're able to like justify and prove that we're actually a powerhouse to make the economy move around. That is not just, gatherings of people. It's actually where businesses are taking place, where people are getting their education, where they're engaging with other communities, where policy is being made. So yeah, the power that we have within this industry is beautiful. It's inspiring. It's inspiring to meet people like you. And I am very grateful to have had the opportunity to speak to you.
Okay.
I hope this conversation can be continued at another time for even longer and even in person. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
why
pleasure.
not?
Thank you, Ori. I really
You're
appreciate it.
very welcome. My pleasure.